Hey guys, today I'm going to be replacing the belt tensioner in this 1998 Toyota Corolla, and that is located over here. I suspect it's starting to go bad. It's been making some grinding and squealing noises in addition to a couple times now I've lost power steering and alternator, and here is the new belt tensioner. You have the piston and then the pulley. This is a genuine Toyota part. I paid about 120 bucks for it, I think. In addition to the previous symptoms, I've noticed the pulley is wobbling back and forth as I was inspecting it. So I'm going to go ahead and start the car up and show you what it's doing before I start replacing. Now I'm not 100% sure the thing is bad, but I'm pretty sure there's not supposed to be any movement in it. And that is the original belt tensioner on the car, and this is at 206,000 miles now, so it is due for replacement anyway. Alright, so first you need to remove the drive belt. And to do that, you'll need a 19mm socket, and you'll be going for this protrusion here. I don't have a 19mm 6-point, and I didn't want to use a 12-point because you can strip this out. So I'll be using a 3/4 6-point, and just pull forward towards the front of the car and pull the belt off. You'll probably need a breaker bar to get this loose enough. If you don't have a breaker bar, you can just put a pipe on your ratchet and use that instead. Now's a good time to inspect your drive belt as well and just make sure it's not cracked. This belt was just put on recently, so I'm not expecting there to be any problems, and it does look pretty good. Okay, so next there is 2 bolts holding this on. We'll have to remove this bolt right here. This is a 17mm bolt. Unfortunately, there is not enough clearance between the bolt and the side of the car to get a ratchet down there, so I'll just be using a 17mm wrench. And this bolt is on very tight, so if you're not able to get it off with the wrench, you can go ahead and use a breaker bar like I used before. Try with that one first, we got it. You want to be very careful not to strip off the head of this bolt. And next we need to remove this bolt right here, which holds on the piston for the belt tensioner. 12mm nut, and that 12mm nut is connected to an external torque stud. Use a 12mm wrench to separate the nut from the stud if the stud and the nut are coming out together. I'm just going to try the ratchet first and see what happens. And you can see I was able to get just the nut there, so I'll go ahead and take that nut off. Whoops. Collect your nut. Now, I've watched a lot of videos online of people doing this, and everyone seems to think that you need to jack up the engine to remove this bolt, because you see how it hits into the side of the car here. And I don't believe that's the case, so I'm just going to go ahead and push off the piston to the edge. See if we can work this out. See? Just like that. So I'm not sure why everybody is saying you have to jack up the engine to pull that out. You saw how easy that was. So we just want to compare our old part to our new part. You'll see they're pretty much the same. They look identical. On the side of this one I can see the date of May 11th, 97. So I know this is still the original factory part. And the new one is dated August 2nd of 2019. So when we spin the pulley here, you hear that noise? The bearings are dried out, there's no lubrication left in there. As you can see with this one, you don't hear any of that noise you hear on the other one. That sound is the sound of worn out, unlubricated bearings. There is also quite a bit of oil on this one, on the piston. I can't tell if that oil is from the piston itself leaking, or if that is from the valve cover seal leaking a little bit of engine oil, because I know the valve cover seal does need replaced. But either way, if you have oil on your piston, it could be a sign that the piston is failing as well. Both the piston and the pulley can seize up, and you do not want either one of those to seize up while you're driving. So if you notice any signs this could be failing, go ahead and replace it while you have the opportunity. So to put the new part in, I'm just going to fish it in from the front here. And we'll put the piston bolt on first. And once that's on, you can put the large bolt back through. Again, you'll have to work with the angles here to get it in, unless you want to jack up your car engine. I really didn't want to. There we go. It's hard to do this with one hand while I'm trying to film it, but as you're tightening that down, just be careful you're not stripping it out, because the aluminum will strip out pretty easily. And you can go ahead and use the wrench to tighten it back down. I really like these ratcheting wrenches. Again, making sure you're not stripping it out as you're putting it in. And once you've got that hand tight, return the nut for the piston. And the torque specs for this bolt are in the factory repair manual on page EM21. For the belt tensioner, it says to torque the bolt to 51 foot-pounds and torque the nut to 21 foot-pounds. And once that's completed, you're supposed to operate the tensioner 3 times at the full stroke. So we got our torque wrench set to 51 foot-pounds. And the nice thing about this torque wrench is you'll see it has a slightly smaller profile. So I'm hoping I can get it down in there to torque that bolt to the proper setting. Yeah, so go ahead and tighten it down. And do it once more just to make sure it's tightened. Alright. So the torque for the nut was 21 foot-pounds. So there's 21. Okay, once more. Alright. So the factory repair manual said to pull back on the tensioner 3 times before you reinstall the belt. Two. And 3. Next we can put our drive belt back on. I'm going to use the diagram I did ahead of time to make sure the belt is routed correctly. Alright, so there's our belt. And I always find the best way to do it is to put the alternator on last. Slip the alternator on. And as a final check, just make sure the belt is correctly seated on all pulleys. And I had missed a groove on the bottom pulley, so now that I corrected that, it looks much better. Alright, so now we can go ahead and start her up and hopefully everything's in order. Alright, so there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch.